Hey guys, it's King, and welcome to another Autism Digest interview, where today we have someone I've been looking forward to talking to for the past 2 weeks, a country songwriter with one notable hit being one she wrote for George Strait, the host of a #1 country music program in the country, and the host of an event that recently happened, the second annual An Acoustic Night for Autism concert in Nashville, where Dylan Massengill, who I interviewed previously on here, performed that. So let's welcome Devon O'Day. Thanks for coming on, Devon.
Hello, Caden. Hello. I'm so glad to be here. Honored to be a part of this. Anything that honors this special group of folks that I got to be a part of the other night. So,
yeah, it's definitely an honor to have you. My first question for you is the same one I ask all my guests. For those of you who don't know you, what's your story?
I was raised in Louisiana, moved to New York City, became one of the first plus size models in New York City, and knew that I wanted to be in country radio. And I just knew that it had to be in Nashville. So I mailed everything that I could mail to Nashville, to an apartment I never saw until I moved in, and left everything on the streets of New York, and started over in Nashville. And I've been in radio in Nashville ever since 1986. So that's what I do. Now, I do have a lot of connections with autism because a lot of people don't realize, too, that the spectrum is very wide, as you know, and there are a lot of people in the creative community of Nashville that are on the neurodivergent track. I mean, there are different people, and I always say some of the most creative people I know are on the spectrum, and they are gifted and wonderful. And I've worked so much with them as far as music is concerned that when I was asked to be a part of this night, I said, yes, absolutely, positively.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a really good story. And I was going to ask you, what's your connection to autism, but you summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, there was a one that's really close to my heart. There was a little boy that went to my church. He was a young man, and his mother was talking to me, and she said, I can't find a babysitter for my son. I said, why? Your son's amazing. And she said, well, he has autism and he's nonverbal, and people don't understand. And so just the typical babysitter is not willing to take on that responsibility, because what if something happened? And I said, well, I'll babysit. And she says, but you would? And I said, yeah. So this wonderful kid and I developed this wonderful friendship, and he was so precious, and he was more verbal than nonverbal was not really the right word for him. When he wanted to say something, he did. And that's the thing that I really treasured about the people that I've met on the spectrum, is that they say what needs to be said or what everybody else is thinking, and but they don't waste words. They don't waste words. And that's what I learned about this kid. And he taught me all about dinosaurs, and he knew everything there was to know about dinosaurs. And this was a kid who wasn't even 7 yet. So he had studied all of this. He we counted and did sort of these little counting games, and his mother said, how did you know to do this? I said, I didn't know to do this. I didn't know to do this. He told me what he needed, and I listened. And she said, but he's nonverbal. And I said, but no, he is verbal. I said, when I'm quiet and I keep trying to tell him to say something I want him to say, he said what he wanted to say. And I think that's just really an incredible thing to know, is that I said that the children that I've loved with autism have taught me more about boundaries that we should all know as people. We should all know good boundaries, and most people don't. And so that's why it was really interesting to work with kids with autism.
Yeah, that definitely sounds interesting, and that's a very powerful story. My next question for you is, how did you get involved with An Acoustic Night for Autism?
I've been hosting events in this town for a really long time, since I've been here, really. And they didn't even realize I had a connection when they first asked me. And then when I explained my connection and how important it was to me, And also my dear friend Jill Pavel, who is a publicist here in town. Her son, Corey Singer, is an amazing singer and an incredible songwriter. And he has a very strong TikTok following because he shares his life as an entertainer with autism. And when we started working together, she said, he just comes alive when he talks to you. And I said, he's just so talented. And so they didn't realize when they asked me to be part of this night that I had that much of a connection, and I do, and I really am proud. I don't usually say yes to host events that I don't have some connection to. So there you go.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you're passionate about this cause. My next question for it is, for anyone wanting to get into the music industry, neurodivergent or not, what's your advice for them?
Well, I'm actually working on a book about that very thing. And the working title is Know Your No and Wear Clothes. There are a lot of people who will tell you all sorts of things about getting into the business. First of all, you don't have to live in Nashville, but you have to know people in Nashville. And the way you get to know people in Nashville is you get involved in groups, whether it's the NSAI, the Nashville Songwriters Association International, or whether it's the Country Music Association, or a group on Facebook of people who are young singer-songwriters, the Tennessee Songwriters Association, the Inspirational Country Music Association. Wherever you find your group, join as many of the groups as you can and make friends. That's where it starts. It all starts with relationship.
I absolutely agree. Not just with music, but with anything, really.
You're right.
A career or me coming on here talking to these people of time, it all starts with a connection and a friendship. With that said,
It is.
My last question for you is, what does the future hold for you beyond the book? Do you plan to host any more acoustic night for autism events?
I will be there anytime they call and ask. So I hope to be a part of that. What's next for me is I also work for another nonprofit called Mustang Heritage Foundation, and we save wild horses and burros in America. And that's what we do. And I have a rescue ranch in Nashville, and saving wild horses from holding pens in America, that's one of the things I do. So my next event is May 20th in Nashville, and it will be called One Horse Tune. And that's incredibly legendary songwriters who will play a legendary song, and then we will auction off their hand-signed lyrics.
Well, that sounds impressive. So that's definitely a unique auction. And,
yeah.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this interview, guys. Thank you so much to Devon for coming on. So, if you guys want to see more inspiring interviews, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Autism Digest. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you. Bye, Caden.